Hello everyone, editing Sarah here. Just a quick note, this episode's discussion on Voyager features explicit conversations about death, suicide, and family pressure around these issues. If you would like to skip that, the timestamp to do so will be in the description.
Hello, this is Voyenture time. The fact that they're naked says a lot. It means this race doesn't believe that nothing's better than throwing a big bag of butter at someone. I'm Andrew, and with me today is...
Sarah.
Ben.
Nathan.
Today we're talking about Voyager Episode 8 on Netflix, Emanations. Harry Kim is transported to an alien world at the same time as a dead woman's body arrives on Voyager. The Voyager has fired 2 of its 38 photon torpedoes.
I like that you're specifying that it was on Netflix, episode 8 on Netflix.
Yeah, well, because we all know it's not the actual episode number, it's just the one listed on Netflix.
He's still salty.
I can tell.
Yes, it's wrong.
You're very
incorrect.
You're very defensive, sir, for someone who never knew about that beforehand.
It's just wrong. It's
gonna be the first note that we get feedback from listeners is, about the episode numbers.
Does Andrew really have to specify that it's on Netflix every time? How else would you be watching this?
Hey, when I watched this show the first time, I rented it from the library and watched it on DVD.
Whoa.
Yo.
When was that?
A long time ago.
It sounds like it.
Well, it was the before times, that's for sure.
Like 2011, I don't know.
Wow, mega before times.
The library, you say?
Yeah.
That would have been your college library, right?
No. I'm older than you guys remember. I graduated in 2010 from college.
Oh, wow, okay, yeah, you are older. I didn't think you were that much older.
Thanks.
That's a nice way to frame that, Andrew.
No, you should interpret it this way. You're so youthful that I thought you were easily my age or just a few months older.
So I'm immature.
That's not what I said. I said
Going downhill.
Andrew, at the same time, though, you and I are the same age, and you consistently think that I am, way younger than you.
I know, I don't know why.
I'm the baby. Gotta love me.
By the way, my quote for you, Andrew, this time.
Oh, yeah, right.
I thought it was going to be, Patera, you've been through a very traumatic experience. Your blood oath is fulfilled.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, I like that one.
Mine was, I have been a little preoccupied after that experience. Does it please you to watch me struggle?
I like these guys. I knew as soon as I heard about a big bag of butter that was going to be it.
Uh-huh.
I was tempted. I was also tempted with Finn singing about gonna build me a pie throwing robot, but we'll get to that.
I will probably never choose a musical one because I can't sing and I won't subject you or our loyal listeners to it because I'd like to maintain a listener base.
I can't sing either, and explicitly that.
Our outro music, I think, is proof to the opposite there.
I would agree.
Yeah. By the way, we have outro music now.
Yeah, we do.
That Nate did, and it's very good.
Nate continues to prove to be
Nate.
Crazy talented.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Also, shout out to Pflugerville, Texas.
Oh, Pflugerville.
You guys make up 30% of our listenership. Yeah.
So, our first live show will be in Pflugerville.
Pflugerville doing the Lord's work.
It'll be the 3 of us on one side of a bar table and our 2 Pflugerville listeners
There's
on the
4
other
of
side.
us.
4? Wait, No, I won't be there.
Andrew?
You won't be.
Andrew's gonna be on the other side watching.
Andrew's having an existential crisis right now because he forgot to count one of us. It's like, did I forget to count myself?
Yeah,
or was
I
it
forgot
one
to
of
count
my
myself.
friends?
I got it right here in the notes. It's like there's a line where it says my name, and it's the three of you. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Oh yeah, and then this guy. Shit.
Speaking of existential crisis, this episode.
Yo, oh my god.
For real, yeah.
Yeah. Although
was a
my
good
first note for this
episode.
one is this theme gets me hyped every time. I had no idea what was happening, what was going to come, what was going to destroy my feelings about this one. I was kind of shocked that they just sort of stroll into what is very obviously a tomb and are just like sort of, I mean, they do have a little conversation about respecting the bodies and not doing anything invasive, but they're still just like walking around looking at these
Just
dead
casually,
Yeah.
scanning all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I did appreciate their like archaeological discussion, like that got interrupted by that other body getting teleported there. But yeah, it was. I wish that there was. I would watch a whole show about Star Trek archaeologists or whatever.
Oh my
Like that
God,
would be
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, although it wasn't too bad that got cut off because Chakotay was getting mighty close to mansplaining the Klingon stuff to
To
B'Elanna.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Whoa, you're right.
Yeah. It was mighty close to that before they got interrupted there.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting that they perceive using tricorders as something more invasive than just using your eyes, because that is not how I perceive them.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they do anything to actually get in what they're scanning, which was a weird, like, I guess we just never know how tricorders actually work.
Right.
So
But
it's
but
just
it's like
Space magic.
is like an
Space
MRI
magic.
an invasive thing?
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it's like, to me, it's like you're looking at the interior or something or getting information about it without actually like doing any harm or damage or physical action to it. It just
Yeah.
That's the funny thing about tricorders is they just blast you full of radiation every time you're scanning.
No, it is just this cool little look into how technology works. It was nice. It stuck out to me. I thought it was interesting.
The other weird Chakotay moment I had there was he said, like, obviously they meant for their dead to be left alone. I'm like, yeah, Chakotay, that's usually the case, no matter no matter what society you're in here.
Yeah, why are you there, buddy?
it was a very cool like series of things that they were having happen in the tomb. Like
Right.
even if he was getting dangerously close to some mansplaining, like it was fun to see Chakotay like actually trying to make some assumptions about like what is important to this race. Also, at the like when the like portal thing was opening up, did anybody else think that it was going to be a weird space god alien that was showing up? Or was that just me?
Some sort. My initial assumption when I first saw the burial site was space spider. It looked like they were all just like webbed up.
They did look very like Frodo in Shelob's lair.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then we learned that's what their bodies decompose into. And Chakotay had just been sort of like casually brushing that aside in a great line from the doctor, who was like, "You were just strolling through their bodies." Like, ooh.
Yeah.
He had a great moment there where you could see the like, or he did a good job of showing like the panic as he realized, oh no, what have I done?
This is why when you find an alien tomb, you turn around. You don't go poking at it.
Well, I could see them being confused and being like, because they're just kind of scattered around. They weren't like laid in specific places, like in a graveyard or something. So I can see why they were like, are these people okay? Like, so I can see them why they would be investigating it. But I mean, yeah, probably as soon as they realized that people were being put there, like currently still, and like it's an active place where these bodies are going, then maybe they should have left.
For sure.
I think they would have if what happened hadn't happened. You know?
I don't know. They took a distressingly long time even after they correctly identified them as bodies, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like if you come across a room full of bodies in like a funerary position that are wrapped in some sort of shroud, like you are allowed to be curious, but you don't go poking at it, and you get out of there as quickly as you can. Like curiosity goes by the wayside here in terms of just straight up respect for the dead.
I don't know. It didn't like, at least my read at first was not that it was some sort of like funeral position that they were in. It, to me, it read like this was going to be some sort of monster movie type thing.
Yeah.
Where there was
interesting.
Where there was going to be like some spider creature or something that spat webs.
Or
and these were food.
Capturing them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, I guess they just didn't know, so they were like trying to find as much information out as they could because they're scientists and that's what they do.
Right. That's so interesting because my read right away was that this clearly was a tomb of some kind.
Do we know what Chakotay's history is? Was he a scientist before this? We know that he was in
the
Starfleet.
Maquis.
Or he did some training with the Starfleet, right?
I don't know. I'm sure we can look that up.
He's an ex-Maquis terrorist, Starfleet field promoted first officer, and a grave robber.
I mean, yeah.
Let's see.
Because I just wonder, did he also have like a scientific background, or was he just kind of like there just cuz?
I think he was just like the person in charge, but he was like, Memory Alpha says, which is the wiki for Star Trek, before serving as Voyager's first officer, he had resigned from Starfleet after years of service in order to join the Maquis to defend his home colony against the Cardassians. I don't know. I don't have time to read this entire page to find out his whole Starfleet history, but yeah, I'm assuming that since he's in the red uniform, he was in the command side of Starfleet.
Yeah, would make sense. So I have some questions on the medical science of Starfleet here, because they they have they have the body that was being transported to this burial site or whatever, asteroid field, wherever these bodies were being teleported to, essentially swap places with Kim. And so they are trying to beam back to Voyager, and they end up pulling back one of these bodies instead of Kim. And so they get this body there, and it's just like, oh yeah, we'll just revive her. We'll just do that. And then, the doctor, essentially said she died of, cancer. She had a tumor on her brainstem. And he's like, yeah, I just removed that and, repaired the brain and revived her, just with the standard postmortem procedure.
Right.
Like, that's just a completely normal thing that they dropped on. It's like, okay, what is the limitation of that then? Because obviously later they aren't able to, like, just do that again.
I think it's probably, I think what I remember is like they can doesn't Harry say something like up to an hour?
I think he just says hours.
Or they can
up
bring
to hours
them back
later.
But yeah, I think it probably also depends on how they died. And the only reason they brought that lady back was because they needed answers on what was happening, because they weren't doing it for the rest of the people, because they realized this is a choice, or it's like a ritual, and we don't want to mess with it and ruin anybody else's afterlife. So,
yeah, no, I wasn't necessarily saying that they should have done that. I was more thinking later in the episode, she spoilers, ends up dying again, and why wouldn't they, like, right there be able to revive her again?
Oh, well,
it was a choice again, right? Like, they intentionally wanted her like that. She'd chosen to die, so they were going to respect her wishes.
Yeah, I don't think she would want, because she wanted to go home, and she said she knew the risk. So I don't think she would have been very happy with them if they had brought her back again after she had tried to get away from them.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I just figured that it was like, well, it didn't work that time. Let's move and try, like, from another, But then it's like, okay, yeah, that doesn't seem great either. Just like, you're just our experiment. You're probably gonna die a few more times trying to get you home. Just
Right.
bring you back. Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
that'd be too much.
Yeah, and it's not like she had the calmest resurrection experience either.
Yeah, right.
They really laid a lot of heavy shit on her like right away. Can you imagine like you die and then you wake up and these aliens are telling you that you're totally fine because you're safe on a starship?
Yeah.
Well, no, because I don't think anybody could realistically imagine it. It would be terrifying.
Well, yeah.
It like no matter what, it would be.
Mhm.
Like if you just fell asleep and then woke up in that scenario, I think,
Yeah.
oh, okay, what happened? This is terrifying. I'm scared.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think honestly, the part about like her entire like waking up sequence that would have scared me the most is like the doctor reaches back down to sedate her, like a little bit slowly, almost like there's something creepy about it to me, like the like resedating with I don't know.
Man, everything was creepy about it to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the resedating, it was like tip to toe. That was terrifying. That's something they did a lot in this episode, was change the kind of camera they were using or do a lot of like in-camera effects to sort of set the mood. And I feel like part of the reason why that was so creepy was because of that super wide angle lens they were using
Yeah.
to like to look up at them, where it was like really disorienting and you feel like really small with these giants looming over you.
Mhm.
It was a very effective way to put you in the head of that character. That's actually why I think I felt like I could sort of not understand, obviously, like, but like sort of begin to have some empathy for what was going on with her.
Yeah, that's fair.
They do it a lot later as well when Kim is talking to the various aliens and doctors down there. They do a lot of Dutch angles, so the camera is like tilted a little bit.
Mhm.
And I feel like as the episode goes on, it gets more and more tilted, and it just sort of lends a lot of suspicion and menace to what is otherwise a fairly straightforward back and forth between the two of them.
Right.
It was just good camera work all the way through this to sort of to add to the unease of this entire story.
Should we just go ahead and get into the like Venor homeworld and like the creepy stuff that was happening there?
Yeah. Yeah. I was delaying
this-
that as a while. As long as like
I think this is a really cool concept that they executed pretty well.
yeah.
Like, what would a society be like if they could prove there was an afterlife? Like, it's not just that like you take it on faith, but everyone knows as a concrete fact
they
that there's a
don't.
life
But they
after
don't
death.
know that, though, is the thing. They don't actually know that there's an afterlife. They just all truly believe
it. Yeah.
They believe so hard that they are willing to go through with anything, really, for it.
Right. I think that's semantics, but that's where the initial story idea came from, was this idea that if you had a society that could prove it, what would they be like? And you're totally right. Like, you're right. They don't have any proof, and that is sort of the crux this entire episode turns on.
Yeah.
They have
Like,
what they believe is hard proof by virtue of that portal being there, and you know,
Right.
they believe that to be the physical evidence of it.
Right.
When in reality, it's not physical evidence of really anything other than you have something that can take a person from point A to point B.
Right.
It's an interesting society, but man, it was very dark to be like hearing some of the stories that some of the people were saying. What was the guy's name who we were hearing, or that Harry kept talking to?
I got it right here. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. They might have said it like once
Hatil.
or twice. Hatil.
Right.
So yeah, some of the things he was talking about, like with the voluntary moving on to the next life. You know, like he was talking about there being a woman who was just so lonely in this world that she just was ready to move on to the next one and be with the people that she believed to be there.
Right. Yeah. And then Hatil is there because he has a disability, basically.
He's a
Mhm.
burden on his family.
Yeah, and his family is like, they like basically pressured him into being there.
And he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
As like later on in the episode, he makes it more clear that he's not completely convinced and he doesn't particularly want to move on. He's not ready to.
Well, he was fine with the idea before the whole thing with
True,
Harry happened.
yeah.
And then he was like, oh, maybe this thing that I thought was real isn't real. And
Right, because that was one of the first things that Harry had said when he came through, was like he saw, all those dead bodies back where he was teleported from, and that
Right.
was what kind of put Hatil into that like crisis of faith.
yeah.
He tells a story about why he's there. It's not that he volunteered, it's that his family volunteered him to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were encouraging him both because from what he was saying, both because like they feel he would be happier in the next life, as well as not being a burden on those who have to take care of him.
Yeah.
Which it felt more like the latter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that an unethical stance for them to take?
I mean, I would say so, considering like they don't actually have proof that he is moving on to something better, and they are just telling him to end his life. Would you? It's the same kind of thing. Like on Earth, would you tell somebody that that's an unethical stance to take? Is like somebody committing suicide because they are a burden onto their family. I don't think you can say that it's ethical at all, really.
Which is, I understand your point, but like they're also approaching it from this perspective of this is what they as an entire society believe to be true based on what they believe is hard evidence. So they're operating within their own worldview, like that is fully what they believe. So it's like what is objectively like unethical, like from our perspective on Earth, which is very accurate. Like,
At least according to what we know, who knows if there are aliens out there who actually have proof otherwise or not. But yes, that is my only qualification there.
Yeah, it's just it's a weird situation, like looking at it from our perspective versus the existence that they live in, for lack of a better word. Like they believe it to be ethical based on what they understand to be true.
Right. And I think, we're kind of in the same position as Harry, because Harry was sitting there being like, this doesn't sit right with me at all based on what I know and have seen, but I can't just be straight out say I think this is wrong because it's what they believe, and he's not supposed to mess with that.
Right. Yeah, it's again Harry playing, kind of the stand-in for the audience, like looking at it from our perspective. It's like, oh yeah, yikes, big yikes.
Right.
So having Harry have to deal with that, like battling his own perception of a society versus, what he believes to be right is a real awkward spot to be in.
Yeah.
For sure.
The Doctor can bring people back from the dead, right? You could argue that is sort of an afterlife. And if you live in a society where the knowledge that there's an afterlife is as concrete as the knowledge of gravity, like, it makes a lot of sense to me that you might want to push that big reset button if things get too hard and there's no easy solution or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree that the Doctor being able to bring someone back to life is as close to an afterlife as, like, I don't agree with that idea, because you're definitively not letting them go to an afterlife. You're bringing they are alive. They are not alive in an afterlife. They are alive here and with everybody else.
I guess what I mean is that it's sufficiently advanced medicine that it can do a lot of the things that dying and going to an afterlife can do, right? Like, so today, or on that planet, cancer kills you, or you get cancer of the brainstem, that's it, you're going to go, and they know that. And so instead of drawing it out or that kind of thing, you decide to euthanize yourself. Now, the Doctor doesn't have to euthanize you. He can just remove that cancer so you can continue on. But it's still that continuance of consciousness that happens, right? You start in the before world, being alive. You die, you go to the afterlife, and you no longer have that cancer. versus going to the doctor where you start with the tumor in the base of your skull, you get it removed, and then you sort of your consciousness continues on.
I still don't agree with that necessarily, because they're still two different things. Like, in one of them, you are alive in the same body throughout essentially the entire thing.
Yeah.
On Earth,
Well,
we have situations where people die for short amounts of time in the process of medical procedures, and then they're brought back to life. Like, they are quote unquote legally dead, but they get brought back. That's not the same thing.
You're not going to a new place.
You're not.
You
You're
just
still
resume
alive.
the same position you were in life.
Yeah, like nothing has essentially changed for you.
Right.
But in this other version that we're talking about, the doctor is doing the same thing we do, but like with more advanced medical technology, versus somebody actually dying and going on to an afterlife. And I just fundamentally don't agree that those are the same, like even remotely the same thing.
I wish it had been something they had explored a little bit more, because I feel like, maybe it's just me reading way too deep into something, but I feel like they specifically had her be resurrected in such a simplistic way, where like it was just off the cuff, no problem, we can do this, to draw a direct comparison to later when they talk just openly and easily about people euthanizing themselves just because they are a mild burden on their family. I wish that the episode had explored that concept a little bit more fully.
Like, what would you have wanted them to do differently?
I don't know exactly. I just feel like there's some parallels there between, well, like I said, between sufficiently advanced medical technology versus being able to prevent you from dying versus pressing the reset button because you have some illness or impairment or something like that is preventing you from living out your life as fully as you would wish. I'm the only one who felt like that.
I thought this episode did a really good job of just doing what it was trying to do, because it didn't have a bunch of distractions because of more than one person running around on the planet or whatever. Like, because everything was Harry talking to the guy and then arguing with the whatever that scientist, whoever that guy was, and talking about
the science
how
priest.
Yeah, he was like, I don't know what your afterlife is. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but I know I'm not from there, so just send me back. And then they're like, no, we're going to take you to a new location, and you're causing all this. Like, basically, like, if you think about it, well, I guess this can happen a lot, but like on this particular planet, like Harry's presence showing up there caused ripples that went throughout the entire society. And like, probably once they left, or once he was gone, they probably were like, well, I mean, because as far as they know, he just disappeared. So they don't know, they don't have any idea. He was just this very confusing entity that they think maybe came from their afterlife and then just disappeared. And so, like, I don't know. It's just, that's just like as a side thing. It's just interesting to me how their impact can just completely change an entire society. And then they just never talk to them again because they're like, bye, we're not from here. But
it's what the Prime Directive is for, right? To specifically prevent this thing from happening.
Well, I mean, he was doing his best. He was
trying.
I
damn
am
good
trying.
job.
He's only
like,
an ensign.
My favorite line that he had, I really liked Harry in this episode, but I thought my favorite line was when he was talking to Hatil and he was telling his whole spiel about how he was like willingly, more or less, going to die so that his family doesn't have to deal with him being disabled or whatever. And Harry's just kind of sitting there in silence, and then he's like, you seem like you have something to say about that. And Harry's like, well, on my planet it just seems like that's a little chilling, like the way that he said that I really just liked the way that he phrased that, because he was just like trying not to be like as blunt as he probably wanted to be, being like, this is really scary and messed up and I don't think this is right, but you know, he's not from there. He doesn't know. So he has to just kind of phrase it differently and more politically correct for what they would maybe need him to say. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's only a 45-minute episode of TV from the 90s. They didn't have the ability really to go into it more than they did, I don't think. And I think that they did really good discussing this, because there was the focused conversations between Harry and Hatil and then with
Mr. Science Priest. I don't remember his name either.
Well, no, I was going to say the lady on the ship who I don't remember her name.
Patera,
yeah.
Patera.
So, like, yeah, just having it be one person talking to one person, basically, on both sides of it. I felt like that made it more focused than it was just if it was like the whole crew showing up at the planet and all the people are there dealing with it. I don't know.
I'm also really glad that it wasn't Janeway who was the one, or Janeway or Chakotay who were the ones that were having to go through this. Like, having it be Kim, who is so fresh out of the academy, so new to all of this experience, and like seeing this world that is so alien to him in their like beliefs, and it like it gave it a rougher edge for like how he was actually like going through the diplomatic part. But I think that if it was too smooth, the way that like, actually I think he made it a little bit smoother. Sorry, I'm thinking this through and I'm clarifying my point. I think he made it smoother because he was trying not to rock the boat, whereas I could see if Janeway were in this position, I could see her getting into like her like angry mom mode almost.
Her like self-righteous
Yeah.
scientist captain lady mode.
Yeah, I could see her doing that and having like trying to make huge sweeping changes almost. But
Yeah.
Do you think she would, though?
Instead, we just have a boy trying his best.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know if she would. She would want to.
she would really want to. I think Kim was just too afraid of like he really wanted to get back to the ship. He wanted to be back with his people. And I think he was more focused on that, whereas I think Janeway would have more like even more trust in the crew and would try and do some good in the process, even though it's against the Prime Directive. But as we know, that doesn't mean a whole lot in Star Trek frequently.
Yeah. I don't think Chakotay would have done it because Chakotay, the way that they've had him portrayed so far, and I think that stays the same throughout the show, he's the most like spiritual, so most like respectful of other people's beliefs and stuff, supposedly.
Right. I mean, like, yeah, you saw that in the beginning of the episode when they came across the bodies in the first place. So he would have very much been much more apt to be like, just let them operate as they normally would, you know. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's how I would have handled it too. If I had been down there, I agree. Kim was doing his best. I don't think that this society is doing anything. Well, okay, I should say that I'm a true blue moral relativist, and I don't think that this society was doing anything wrong based on their own ethics.
Based on their own ethics, I agree with you. But like,
by virtue of the show, we have more information than they do.
Yes.
And so it's impossible to split it from that. But I mean, I agree.
Is it though? I don't think it is impossible to separate from that. I don't think that, especially a non-warp culture, right? Like they're aliens who have never made contact with an outside race of any kind. They don't even, as far as we know, they don't even have like interstellar travel. Is it right to go in and say, we have concrete proof? Like your first contact experience is to go in and say, we have proof that your entire religion and maybe the foundation of your entire society is wrong? Well,
I think that ultimately they don't have proof that they don't have that. Remember, like they have that whole part at the end where Janeway's like talking to Harry when she graciously gives him 2 entire whole days off of work to process the fact that he died.
That's really
funny. He's like, yeah, I'm ready to go back to work. And she's like, no, I want you to take some time off to reflect. Come back in 2 days. Like 2 days is all that he needs to reflect on how he died to come back here.
Like, I appreciate the fact that she's giving him any time off to reflect on that.
Yeah.
But he deserves at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, give him a little bit more, I think. But anyway, that aside, in that conversation, and this is something they like noticed earlier in the episode, is that they were like, there's like this neural burst of energy or something, like some Star Trek science that happens when
the quote unquote new element.
Right. When they die, that is released from their bodies and it goes out into the asteroid or whatever. And so she's like, maybe that is their consciousness. Maybe that's them going to their afterlife. Like, we don't know what that was. So, I mean, I don't know. I think It's the one, I think that this, of all the episodes so far, this seems like the most, I don't want to say close to home necessarily, but it's like the most like actual debate to have over what was the right thing and what's like, are they right or not? I mean, because I do agree that like based on the information that they have on their planet, then they're not doing anything wrong. Because if they do believe it'll be better if you just go to because they don't even call it dying. They call it going to the next emanation.
Right, because they believe that they aren't actually dying. They're being sent before they die to this new emanation.
Right, where they're
whatever
like
they refer
restored.
To it as.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I like totally agree. And it's just the like due to the fact that we have this outside information as viewers, which is a very common thing, especially like I feel like I've seen it a lot more in like a lot of 90s shows where like you get a more complete picture of what's actually happening than the people who are in the show, versus a lot of stuff now where it's like you're trying to figure it out along with the people in the show. You have a more complete picture, so you have more information to go off of. They don't know that the bodies are being sent to the inside of an asteroid. So but
we don't know if they're actually going on to an afterlife or not.
True. But like we also don't know that about ourselves. So I think even if they had that information, they wouldn't know at that point. All they would know is that their bodies are being sent when they think that their bodies are also going to the afterlife.
Is that part of it though? That was something that was unclear to me throughout the episode because they talk about they don't bring up the body as a thing going to the afterlife. They just talk about the person going there.
Pater specifically was talking to the fact that she believed her physical body would be in the afterlife the same one, and that she would be able to reconnect with her family like in the physical, like in her same corporeal form. There was a explicit conversation around that.
Later they talk an awful lot about like a higher level of consciousness and stuff. This is I think where I got mixed up on it.
Yeah, because like part of what shocked them when Kim arrived was the fact that he said that he saw dead bodies. And that was right. Alone a shocking thing because they were like, there shouldn't be dead bodies there. Everybody should be alive and having a great time.
Right. Yeah.
So
very
like,
true, very true.
I think like if they had known they were just sending dead bodies into an asteroid, that might have changed things. So
yeah,
who knows what they would be thinking.
So regardless of all of that, like, what they're believing to happen, still pretty upsetting with Hatil's family, like essentially forcing him to do this when he was not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Like for their own benefit.
He was though. It was only when Harry Kim showed up that things started to go bad.
I don't know that that's true.
I think he indicated that he had doubts before, and that
because there was that scene with him and his wife.
Yeah, and Harry showing up just really kind of cemented, like, I don't want to do this, but I will for my family.
The fact that he had thought about what he would do if he didn't have to do this. He's like, sometimes I just want to walk out and go out and live with my friends in the mountains. Like, he had a plan in his mind.
Yeah, that was thought out prior to Kim showing up.
Interesting.
I think that he was just more writing off the faith of his family more, and then Harry showed up and then he was like, okay, I can't do that anymore because I don't think that what I think will happen will actually happen, or I don't know that and I'm not ready to go yet.
Mm-hmm. Oof.
This is Star Trek operating at its best to me.
Yeah.
It was a great episode. Like, I wasn't actually super into it coming off of it because I was still feeling pretty down from like the tone of the episode. But as I've been thinking about it more, I like it more, which I think is a really good point for it.
Yeah, I mean, not that it should like necessarily have that effect, but like a good art should make you, think and feel afterwards about it. Like still having that reflection on, regardless of what your feelings are, like it has done its job. Like if it is compelling enough to make you have to unpack and process it afterwards.
Right.
I think sci-fi is at its most powerful and Star Trek especially is a good exemplar of this, when it takes a single concept like this and then explores it through the lens of an outsider in another society.
Yeah.
Things like euthanasia, faith, that a lot of things like that were explored, I think, very neatly in this episode that you couldn't have done as well if it had been with people on Earth.
Yeah. And handled very gracefully.
You handled a lot more gracefully than the away team did in the tomb there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to circle back a little bit to when they were struggling to figure out how to get Harry back, and they decided, well, we better keep going. And they were about to leave, and then Harry showed up. But I was just very sadly disappointed that Paris did not speak up at that. He's just kind of like...
I was too.
I was very sad.
There was very little Tom Paris in this episode.
Yeah, he had like
Just
one
one
line. Yeah.
Also, worth to note that Nate did win the death pool that we made
Oh my God.
episodes ago. Nate picked Harry
is
Kim to be the first
very
one to
true.
die.
Can we get like slot machine, like ding, 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 ding noises underneath this?
Even if it was a technicality. Congratulations, Nate.
Check that off as a win. It counts. Being technically correct is the best kind of correct.
Wrong sci-fi show, Nate. We are talking about Star Trek.
Come on, man. So, should we move on to the other heavy episode we watched?
I think that's a good call.
I believe so.
I think this is a really great episode of TV. I really hope we get more like this.
Mm-hmm.
This week we also watch Adventure Time episode 15, What is Life? Finn builds a never-ending pie-throwing robot, Nepter, voiced by Andy Milonakis, to pull a prank on Jake, but the machine's conscience is conflicted by the will of the Ice King when he is attacked by a lightning bolt that contained the Ice King's private particles. Eventually, Nepter chose to side with Finn.
I don't like his private particles being talked about.
Yeah.
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 So initially, Finn gets pranked by Jake with a butter prank, which was him carrying a big garbage bag full of butter and throwing it at Finn.
It was so dumb and great.
To retaliate, Finn consults a book that's just like on the table in front of him.
Oh my
Which
god,
is
that was
just
so
filled-
good.
What is this book? There is a text on the left page and a image on the right page. And the first one is the text is a horse in a party hat, which is accurate. The next one, the text says a grave robber, which was like a treasure hunter, a guy like with a bunch of gold and stuff. The third one was tacos, which had a picture of a battleship. The next one was yo, what up, which was a picture of a pie. The last one was, quote, a nerd, which was a young girl in love. What is the topic of this book? Does anyone have any theories?
Fucking
Encyclopedia.
No idea.
Okay, got it. Got it in one.
I loved that it like was responding to what Finn was saying as he was flipping through it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very funny to me that it like I don't remember what was the one before the pie that said yo what up.
It was a battleship that was called Tacos.
Right. How silly of me to forget that.
Obviously.
Then he gets to pie. He's like talking and flipping through them, and he gets to pie and he goes, "Yo, what up?" And then he flips to the next page, and then comes right back to pie, and it's like the book's going, "Yeah, it's this one, right? What up?"
Yeah.
You guys noticed so much more than I did.
Yeah, the book seemed like sentient in that moment, almost.
Uh-huh.
I had to watch it a couple of times to be like, did it change as it went through? And nope, it was that way the entire time. I just didn't notice until he flipped back the page.
So the robot itself was a microwave that he just, scotch taped some hardware to and put wires in a can on top of.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I really loved Finn taping those things together and then shouting at it for it to come alive. Like,
Yeah.
That's not how
reminded
robots
me a lot
work,
of-
my dude.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of Homer Simpson building a robot
Yeah.
and not having any wires or anything in there. And then, of course, it gets struck by lightning, which, as we all know, scientifically will bring anything alive. And
Right.
Whether or not it
for
should
the
be.
second
Science.
time, Yeah, for the second time this season, Finn has brought something dead to life.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I appreciated the most about this part was the fact that it didn't turn into a Frankenstein situation, and he was like, "I love my robot child."
Yeah,
Like,
it just turned into a toddler in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when they were, sneaking into Ice King's place to, like, get the lightning to, quote, like, fix him or whatever, he's just like, okay, you have to be quiet. And he just was doing, like, sneaking. And it's like, okay, yeah, that is actually having a toddler. It's like, anytime you're like, okay, no, you need to be quiet. Oh, we have to be quiet. I like just like repeating very loudly what I need to be doing.
Yep. I thought this was an interesting kid-level exploration. Here, stick with me on this one, of nature versus nurture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Arguably, his nature is to be Finn's son and a pie-throwing robot, but he was nurtured by the Ice King's private particles. And there's sort of this dichotomy between them of how he was, quote, created or born, and how he was, I guess, raised, or how, the environment around him shaped him.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it more of like, I don't know, like divorced parents or something. Like,
Oh, hit me with that one.
Like the robot was like a child of divorce. Yeah.
yeah.
Whoa.
I can
But
see
then
that.
it's kind of a messed up way of discussing that if that's what it actually is.
Yeah, a little bit.
Talk to me a little bit more about this one.
I don't feel like that's necessarily what they were going for, but that's kind of
Yeah.
what, in the end, like in that last, like, choose between, Finn
Choose
and Ice
between
King.
us.
Like,
yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I mean,
felt
divorced
like
parents,
that
if your
a bit.
divorced parents are both shitty people who would ask you to pick between them or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I
boy.
definitely don't want to frame it like that is, my
Right.
perception of
No.
what that goes like, but it felt like I don't know, kind of an old trope of that in
Yeah.
TV movies and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think about it very deeply, honestly. I just thought about it how, like, Finn and Ice King are basically, it's like parents based on what has happened in the episode. Like, Finn created it, and then Ice King, like, fixed it or whatever with his lightning. And so then you can argue that those are his parents, and then he had to choose one.
I thought it was another, again, not to advocate that Ice King is a good person, but it gives him another
It humanized
dimension to his character. Yeah, where
Yeah.
he was like,
He was lonely.
the quote of, he's like, the robot I tried to kill fills me with great longing, and he's like realizing like, oh, I have a connection with someone now. Like, up to this point, like, the only person he seems to really have a connection, quote unquote, with is the penguin that lives in his palace.
Gunther.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was oddly emotional at the end, where Ice King gets knocked out, and he has the single tear that drops, and it's this dream sequence of him like sitting on the beach with the robot, like this perception of like what it would have been like if the robot chose him to be his dad.
Yeah.
Does every episode where the Ice King is heavily featured like this end with him having some type of dream sequence?
I hope so.
No, I don't think so.
And I
Maybe?
do appreciate Ice King's projection of what choosing Finn was going to be like, where it was Finn and Jake just
Farting on it.
Putin on Neptune to the max.
Yeah.
Farts played a surprisingly big role in the other episode we watched, episode 16, Ocean of Fear. While Finn and Jake are playing by the sea, Finn realizes he is terrified of the ocean. The spectral fear feaster, voiced by Mark Hamill, taunts Finn about his fear, and Jake determines to help Finn overcome his fear of the ocean by traveling in it with a submarine.
So it actually was Mark Hamill this time? I thought it was just going to be John DiMaggio again.
Yes, and it was Clancy Brown reading the intro and outro text.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Clancy Brown, you know from a ton of voice acting. He's Mr. Krabs, and he's the very mean guard in Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
By the way, my fun voice actor fact was going to be about Neptune being voiced by Andy Milonakis, but that was just Andrew took care of it in the intro to that episode.
Wait, who is that?
Andy Milonakis?
Yeah.
Do you not have you? Did you never see the Andy Milonakis show?
Who's Andy Milonakis?
So he's he's essentially a YouTube comedian who got big because he has a genetic disorder. So he doesn't have growth hormones. So he's about 50 years old, but looks like he's 14.
What? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was not aware.
I thought his voice was just like Finn again with like robot modulation.
I thought so at first.
That was what I thought it was too.
And then I saw in the credits that it was Andy Milonakis, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. That's obviously got to be my voice actor fact. But yeah, he's
44 and he looks 14.
Yeah. He got famous because partially because of that, and a lot of the early stuff that he did was on he did a lot of skits with Jimmy Kimmel when he was he was 25, and he would go into a convenience store in a Boy Scout uniform and ask for a pack of smokes and some porno mags. I'm glad I actually got to turn that into something.
When was this episode from? 2009?
Yeah,
2010.
He also tweeted today about how much he misses voicing Neptune.
Yeah, I always assumed he was just like a 12-year-old who did that voice.
So Andrew, is this is Finn's response accurate to how you feel around the ocean?
No, I love the ocean. I just don't like being in blue water, and I think that seems like a pretty realistic and reasonable fear to me.
I don't know. It seems exactly what Finn's fear is.
But right, Finn had no problem being near the water. It was anytime the water touched him or he got immersed in it was where he got terrified.
I go in the water.
Yeah,
I like being in ocean water. Yeah, when I lived in Australia, I learned how to swim out in the ocean.
Hold on. You lived in Australia?
Yeah, I lived there when I was a kid. I lived there for 6 months in 2001. So I went to school for a full semester there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was really great. It was fun to get to go to a school there and get to be involved in that culture like that. And because most Australian cities are coastal and are, right on the water, everyone has to learn how to swim. And so the most practical way to do it is to just load up a bus full of kids and ship them off to the nearest beach. Which is cool. It was kind of terrifying because I'd taken swim lessons before, but I'd never done open ocean swimming before. But it was really great. The only thing was that one day we couldn't go out and do it because the stingrays had come in for spawning, and there were 100,000 of them, literally coating the entire surface of the beach underwater.
Australia is terrifying.
The people are very nice, though.
I'm sure, yeah, but the animals and stuff are the most poisonous types of animals that exist
the wildlife,
in the world.
all of it wants to kill you.
Yeah.
Everything that wants to kill you, animal-wise, is in Australia.
Yeah, there's this animal called a parenti, which just imagine like a goanna, but it's got, instead of like little claws, it's got these super curvy 6-inch long razor sharp claws that come out of its feet. And that's normally fine because it's not a predator. It's too small to really go at you. But the problem is that it startles very easily. And for whatever reason, its evolutionary adaptation for this is to run up the tallest object. But it lives in the outback. And generally speaking, there is not very much in the outback that is much taller than you are. And so if you come across one and they just like to hide out in bushes and you startle it, it will run up you and just slice you apart with its big old fingernails.
So your sentence there of oh, there's this thing, just imagine this thing. I didn't know what either of those things were, so it was like you were just going, imagine, so there's a plingleberry, imagine a scrimblepuss but with longer claws. What?
All right, so just picture a lizard. You know what a lizard looks like. Just a generic lizard. Big lizard.
I thought this was a mammal.
5 foot long lizard.
I thought this was a mammal.
Oh, no. Is that not a thing? Oh, this also lives in Australia. Oh, that's part of the problem.
Okay, so you're fine being in the water, but so when we go to Hawaii and go out snorkeling, I'll just have to keep repeating the mantra, the ocean is your friend and you have friends all around you right now.
Probably. I'm a little iffy on snorkeling. I like
Snorkeling is
like
so much
snorkeling when I'm next to the land. I don't love snorkeling when I can't see it.
Yeah.
And I definitely do not. No one enjoys snorkeling when there's nothing underneath you except water that goes so far down it disappears into blackness.
Okay, there's no point to do it
there's
there.
nothing to see out there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
luckily
Andrew,
most of the snorkeling stuff would be close into shore. But
Well, let me
that's neither
explain
here
where
nor
this anxiety came from, shall I? This also stems from Australia. Surprise, surprise. We went snorkeling on the Great Barrier Reef, and the way the reef is not set up, the way it developed is, imagine like a cyberpunk skyscraper city where it's these super tall columns of coral and limestone that have built up over thousands of years, and then in between them are like these streets or alleyways that are open water that goes down as deep as you can see. Sometimes you can see some sand, but mostly just goes down into blackness. You can't see what's down there. And when you're over the coral, like the deepest it gets is like 10, 15 feet. So you can see down no problem. Most of the time it's like within 3 or 4 feet. So you're like right there. It's not an issue. But each one of these sort of buildings are only maybe 20 feet on a side. So as soon as you're done on one, you have to cross over to another one to see what's going on there. Mm-hmm. And in between these stacks of coral in the dark water, that is where the sharks live. Mm-hmm. And maybe a week before we went out snorkeling, a couple had been left behind by one of these groups that brings people out there and disappeared. And we were relayed this story while we were on the boat heading out to the snorkeling. And they think what happened is that they tried to swim back to shore because it's far enough you can't see land, but you're only like 10 miles away, so it's not impossible, especially if you got left behind. And they think what happened is they swam between these coral things, and through a particularly wide one, the sharks got them.
Lovely.
So this is where my fear of dark water comes from.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
I don't like going in the ocean.
At all? Is that
Huh.
why you live in a mountain state, so you don't have to?
Well, no,
as far as away from ocean as possible.
That's not why. It is like I like going to the beach and looking at it, and like, you know, if the water comes up and I'm like not wearing my shoes, then I'll walk through it or whatever, but I don't want to swim in it. There's stuff in there.
Oh.
Yeah, there's stuff in there.
There is stuff in there.
I don't even like going in the pool because there's probably stuff in there.
Weird. I really like going to the beach and really like swimming in the ocean.
Me
And
too.
I don't like
Me too.
I don't like to swim. Fun fact, for someone who has spent a significant amount of his life on boats, I am a very bad swimmer. But I love swimming in the ocean. Like
It's great.
it like
Except just keep me away from the dark water.
Mm-hmm.
like Andrew, would you ever go scuba diving?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
I have a feeling though that if you went through a scuba diving class, you would not make it to the end because
Why?
the entire thing about the class is about how the water is trying to kill you at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. That would be very comforting to me because it would be surrounded by people who share my anxieties and just understand that.
But here's the
And
thing.
it would give me a bunch of tools to be able to deal with that.
Well, the tools to be able to deal with that are like, hey, don't be down there too long. Hey, don't go too deep.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like there's no actual tools for like dealing with a lot of things. It's just like
Yeah.
Just don't be dumb.
just don't
be
be like just don't be
careful.
super dumb, all right?
Yeah.
Like keep an eye on the time in your tank.
Don't
'Cause,
run
like,
out of oxygen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't run out of oxygen.
hey, make sure to breathe as you come up to the surface because if you don't,
Uh-huh.
you will die.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the
Yeah.
bends.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
like,
let's leave
it's-
scuba diving at the door, shall we?
Yeah.
Yep.
Ugh.
Hey, should we talk about this episode?
I think we are.
I mean, yeah, fundamentally, like, it's all just, like, exposure therapy that Jake is giving to Finn, and Jake ends
In
up
like
getting...
the least helpful way possible.
Yeah, and Jake ends up getting knocked out and falling to the bottom of the ocean, and since Finn is still very scared, he decides, well, let's all get down there too. He'll knock himself out and go down to the ocean floor to say hi to Jake, I guess, and then they'll both go back up. I don't know what he's going down to save.
There.
He's going down to save Jake, who's been knocked out, by knocking himself out, and I don't know what the thought process was there necessarily.
Well, yeah, and then when he gets down there, they're both sleeping, and then they both wake up, and then they go up, and it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, and they definitely have the bends now. I mean, they're
Almost assuredly.
their solution of getting back up from the ocean floor was, let's pull our ripcord and inflate our life vest, and we'll go back up to the surface.
Like the way you avoid
They
the
just
bends is like
shoot straight up.
Is like you stop every so often and like spend 30 minutes there to let your body adjust to the pressure. Like they have the bends, absolutely, but it's a cartoon, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
Do you guys know about saturation divers?
No.
So these are people who dive at depths like, I can't remember the exact number, but it's like 500, 600, 800 feet underwater, where the pressure is so high that the gas in your blood dissolves into your skin. And so you can't, it takes so long to go down and then to come back up that it's not practical to do it every time you finish a dive. So what they do instead is live in hyperbaric chambers for like 6 weeks at a time that are kept at the same pressure as the water they're diving into. And then, so you live in this thing, and they just lower it down to the water where you're going to be in the morning. You get out, you do your work, you come back in, and they bring it back up to the surface at night, just maintaining the pressure the entire time.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Wild.
Yeah, because like you start to get into pressures that are like unsafe at like 60 feet under the water, under the surface.
Surprisingly shallow, yeah.
Yeah, because it's every 30 feet is essentially another whole atmosphere of pressure that is being put on you.
It's wild.
Like it's because you gotta remember how much denser water is than air, and it's like,
Yeah. Water's weird, huh?
yeah, it's actively trying to kill
So
you at all
wet.
times. It's wild.
So it's interesting that you guys talked about he goes down to the bottom and things are just fine. I hadn't really thought about that until you brought this up, but as someone who struggles with anxiety, that is an oddly similar experience where, at least for me, the anxiety ramps up. You feel worse and worse about things. Maybe it leads to a panic attack. But then when you actually do the thing or engage with it, or when it is all over, like it was just fine. It was fine the whole time. It was totally fine. There was never really any danger or harm to you or anything like that. It was just fine. Just like he was flipping out about going down there. But then when he does, it's just fine. It's fine.
Right. Like once he was there, it was fine. It was the thought of going down there that was the issue for him. And
Right.
yeah.
So do you guys think that exposure therapy actually works?
It absolutely does.
Yeah. I think, I mean, approach correctly if it's done right, yes.
Yeah.
the way,
yeah.
Not
your
done
dog,
by
brother.
Not with
Jake.
not your stretchy dog.
Yeah. That's fair. Nicole and I were talking about that recently because of we were talking about my intense fear of snakes, and she was wondering if that would work, and I was like, I'm not interested in trying, to be honest. So
Yeah.
I'll pass.
It definitely does. I mean, it works all the time, but the way you've seen it in TV is not the way it actually works.
Right.
So, like, a classic example is people who are afraid of spiders. Like, you might start with just talking about spiders.
Okay.
And then when you feel comfortable doing that, then you might go up to having a picture of a spider on the wall across the room from you. And then you just slowly work up, like, being comfortable, getting closer and closer to it.
Okay.
And then it's like this really slow ramp up to get up to it. It's a slow exposure.
Okay. I did not know it was like that kind of scale. So that's interesting.
Right. It's not going to be like
Yeah.
if you were doing that with snakes, they're not going to like throw you a snake and like
No,
say, "Here,
no,
hold
I
this
didn't-
for a while."
Here, keep the snake alive.
I didn't even
Yeah.
think it would be like that intense, but yeah, I thought it was going to be somewhere in between the two. Like a snake just being in the room.
My mom is a therapist, and she's done this before, and she has found with some people that putting an image on an iPad is really effective because you can control the size of it right there, so you can use it. She uses it with her therapist or her clients as a way of indicating, like, if it's really tiny, okay, not a good day with it. But if it's like in a normal size or bigger, then they're probably doing okay.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, if you want to stop being afraid of snakes, exposure therapy is a great way to do it.
I'm sure, but you know what? I'm good with being afraid of snakes.
Snakes are so cool. I love snakes.
I hate them with every fiber of my being. Should we move on to connections?
So my connection was that Finn had to essentially face death when saving Jake at the bottom of the ocean, much like Harry Kim had to going back through the portal.
Mm-hmm.
So Mine was that all three of the episodes really dealt with fear. The Star Trek one, the fear of death. What is life? Ice King's fear of loneliness, and then Ocean of Fear, obviously, Finn's fear of the ocean.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Mine is the balloons also want to die, so we're all on the same page here. Very.
When did the balloons want to die?
Did you not hear that?
Said when they he lets them go, and they're like, "Finally, we can die," or whatever.
Oh, I
did say that.
Yeah, our life debt is complete. There's like it
Your
was
blood
something
debt
like
is
that.
complete.
Blood debt. Yeah,
Your blood oath is fulfilled. That was part of my Andrew quote.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, good stuff.
God.
I guess you could. I had one too. This is kind of stupid because yours are much better, but I had the one of like the Ice King sort of had his own happy little afterlife at the end. If you wanna stretch the metaphor a little bit there.
Yeah, that's a stretch.
It's a very rubber bandy metaphor, but I'll allow it.
I was trying to draw some connections between Neptune being alive and all the discussions of death, but I just can't quite find what the thread is. There's something there.
I was looking for that too, especially when I saw the episode title. I was like, "Ooh, it's like this is going to be a natural connection," and I was looking for that the whole time. And
yeah,
I circled to piece.
Ended up being more about parenthood than actually like.
Yeah.
Which was interesting.
Yeah.
It was not the direction I remembered it going in.
I'm glad that these were not like just light episodes like we've been having for a little bit. We were able to actually have some discussion about them outside of it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they've necessarily found their stride yet, but they're certainly realizing that there's a lot more they can do with this TV show than just have fart jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's also a lot of fart jokes.
There's a lot of fart.
Well, yes, there are.
They specifically brought up pooting in both of the episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And specifically pooting on somebody. Not even just like
in both ones. Yeah, with Jake's butt cheeks spread wide across the newt.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, I just noticed a fact about this.
Okay. Is it really, really, really good? Because we've been recording for an hour and a half, and I have to edit
Okay,
this.
we're way over time. Ocean of Fear was written by J.G. Quintel, the creator of the regular show.
Okay.
nice.
Join us next time when we watch the Voyager episode Prime Factors. A species that could shorten Voyager's journey with a transportation device will not share its technology. And the Adventure Time episodes When Wedding Bells Thaw and Dungeon.
Remember to rate us on iTunes or wherever.
Review. Leave us a review, and in like a month we'll get to reading it potentially.
Eventually there will be a review. You know, but we'll see it.
Slap that subscribe button.
Pflugerville, show up for us.
Come on, Pflugerville.
Represent.
Big
But yeah, really any reviews or feedback helps at this point, especially so early on. So
yeah,
any of that would be appreciated.
At us.
Twitter, we are at voyenturetime, or send us an email at voyenturetime@gmail.com.
And we have a Facebook
Anywhere
page.
you want to find us, we're Voyager Time.
Also, Facebook page, Voyager Time.
Shout Voyager Time into the void, and the void will yell back.
In the meantime, we'll just wait for you here.
By the mausoleum.
With our backs turned.
And our defenses lowered.
Come along with me and we'll explore the galaxy. We got stuck in Delta Quadrant. We'll get home eventually. Come along with me and we'll bring this new monkey. They got stuck out here with us. And now we're one big team.
Boom, baby. That's another episode in the can. We did all our B mic chat off recording. That was a mistake.
That was a mistake.
I do have a ticket open now, so they invited me to their customer self-service portal.
That's fantastic. It's very important that they get this right.
It is important. They must rename their microphone.
A great way to start our relationship with this company that we want to sponsor us.
We can dream.
Mm-hmm. That's how the conversation is going to start about getting them interested in our podcast, is through this ticket.
Oh, okay.
Wow, these people sure know a lot about bees. Let's support their podcast that has nothing to do with bees or audio equipment or anything.
There's going to be that one support. That's going to be that one. There's going to be that one support team member that's going to be like, "Oh, Voyager, you say? I like that show. Oh, Adventure Time."
Wow,
Yeah,
two of
that's
my
gonna
great loves combined in a single podcast. What a lucky day for me, the engineer who works at Neat Bee Mics.